On this channel, $1 Million Made Easy, we love to run numbers for people. And I got this request from an individual. He said he's almost 56 years old. He has 1.9 million saved up. He says he can contribute 3,000 a month, and he wants to know. He said he'd like to retire between age 62 and 65, depending on how much we have saved. He says he won't take Social Security to age 67. He says we also like to know what percentage we can safely withdraw without running out of money, assuming a 30-year retirement. So I went ahead and ran the numbers using the S&P 500 totally, 1.9 million. Again, you could run into a bad set of returns, like in the year 2000, like in the depression years. In that case, you may end up with less than what you actually put in. For example, I'm just going to look at the 9-year column when he's 65. With these kind of numbers, he would have put in 2.224 million, and yet there's a year, at least 1 year, where you only have 1.639 after that 9-year period. Why? Because you ran into some down years. Now, that only happened 3% of the time that you ended up with less than what you put in. But are you comfortable with that? But look at this, 90% of the time you'd have over 3 million, color coded in green. 79% of the time you'd have over 3.5 million. Again, we're looking at this column right here, color coded in blue, and 70% of the time you'd have over $4 million. Now, what would happen? Keep this in mind right here, this 1.639. Keep that in mind. Let's just say he's already got 1.9 million. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but what if he's already got a huge saved up? Why don't we just see what would happen if he just stayed conservative and say he just put it in some conservative investment, just paying 3% a year? Again, we got 90% of the time with the S&P 500 having 3 million. What happens if we just stuck for the next 6 to 9 years, you just stuck it in a conservative investment paying 3% a year? Watch what happens. Now, 3% a year going down through there, he's still adding to 3,000 a month, starting at 1.9. After 6 years, they have 2.5 million. But look at after 9 years. After 9 years, he'd have $2.844 million without even taking the risk of being the S&P 500. I'm all for being in the S&P 500 if you're in it for the long term, but if you're in the short term, you could actually end up, like we saw right here, end up less than what you put in. He's already got 1.9 million. Let's go ahead and run the numbers at 2.844. Let's say he's 9 years down the road, he's got $2.844 million. Actually, let's just use the 3 million. That's so close to the same amount, 2.844 or 3 million. Let's just go ahead and do the 3 million because 90% of the time you'd have that. Here's the 3 million. The percentage that we always look at is 4% because that inevitably will last over 20 and 30 years. Over the last 100 years, it would have been successful every single time except 1929 and 1930 right here after 30 years. This is after 20 years, 1929 numbers. Why? Because they were so horrible. You're starting out with 3 million, taking out 4% right here. That's 10,000 a month going down through here, and you would be out of money in 19 years if you left it all in the S&P 500. But that's another thing we do in this channel. We run it. We change the asset allocation. Again, this is so rare. 1 out of 100 years. All these other years got millions of dollars. Let me show you the graph here. Look at the kind of numbers we're talking about: 10 million, 20 million, 30 million. It's just that if you think we might possibly have something like the depression years coming up, then you would run out of money. If you had it all in the S&P 500, watch what happens if I change to a 70-30 split. 70% staying in the S&P 500. 30% going into a cash reserve account. So when the market's going down, this 120,000 isn't knocking down this S&P 500 even farther. You want it to be able to stay as healthy as possible. So when the market does come back, like it inevitably does, you can benefit from that. So you want this 120,000 coming out of the cash reserve. Watch what happens when I hit 70-30. All of a sudden, these are the 1929 numbers. Did you catch the difference? Running out of money in 19 years, 70-30 split. After each of these periods, 1.427 million. These are 1929 numbers, folks, but because you're taking some out of the put something in a cash reserve, so when the market's going down, these amounts are coming out of that. You not only survive, but you thrive even in returns like 1929. So that shows the importance of the asset allocation. But hopefully this has made sense. That he's already well on his way to having a great retirement. Do you really want to risk the next 6 to 9 years putting it in a market which may be a down market and end up having less than what you actually put in between that 6th and the 9th year? But that's what we do on this channel. We love running numbers for people. please consider subscribing. Please share this channel with others. Let them know there's a channel out there that do all these kind of numbers for them, kind of give an idea what might happen in the future. Thanks for watching.